Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Jay and welcome to the channel, and welcome back to October Lake in Planet Zoo, a project where we're building this really large wildlife park situated in the Canadian Highlands. In today's video, we are going to be building a habitat for a troop of proboscis monkeys. If that sounds good to you, and if you do like today's video, please do consider leaving a like down below, and of course do comment and let me know what you thought of the video. If you want to see more Planet Zoo content, please do consider subscribing as well, and I do upload Planet Zoo videos every Wednesday at 5 PM UK time. With that little intro out of the way, let's talk about today's video and what we're going to be doing in it. So like I said, it's going to be for a troop of proboscis monkeys, which are quite easily one of my favorite primates. These guys are like some of the most fascinating creatures there are, and honestly, they're an animal that I just find so goofy looking, but at the same time so just majestic in their own way, and it's a really interesting kind of mix of feelings you get when you look at this animal. I swear, it's just such a unique creature, and I've had the really great opportunity in the past to actually see these guys in the wild along the Kinabatangan River in Malaysian Borneo, in Sabah, which is one of the states of Malaysia that's in Borneo, and they're really cool to see in the wild. They can jump these huge distances from tree to tree. They kind of hang around on the trees by riversides as well, and it's just such a cool sight. They're incredibly bizarre creatures. Like I've just said, this is so weird looking. Like, they really stand out as well when you're looking through the trees. So they live in the same sort of environment as the Bornean orangutan. So those two primates kind of make up the main kind of like primates of interest, so to speak, in those parts of the forest. There are other primates, of course, there's macaques and stuff, but those two are kind of like the big ones. And they have such different lives as well, despite being like living in the same environment, being two different types of primates. They still live very differently to each other. One big example is that the orangutan is terrified of water. They do not want to swim at all, really. They don't like swimming. But the proboscis monkey is actually a really good swimmer. In fact, they have webbed fingers and toes, which is quite crazy considering they're a primate. But before we talk any more about the proboscis monkey, and believe me, I will talk quite a lot about them because they're so cool, let's talk a little bit about the habitat build. So in today's video, what we're going to be doing is essentially building a habitat for them which is split in half, and through the middle is going to be a guest walkway. This whole area, by the way, is really close to where the Barbarossa habitat was, and you can just kind of see it in the top corner over there. And what it's going to be like is that there's going to be a walkway for the guests underneath an overpass, which is going to be for the monkeys themselves. And the overpass is going to have a glass bottom, so that as the monkeys walk across, the guests can actually look up at them, and the monkeys can look down at them too, at the guests. So I thought it was a pretty cool idea. Of course, walkways like this are not uncommon in zoos. You see them quite a lot. They do them a lot for big cats, and of course primates are definitely common for them as well, but the big cat ones are the very cool ones, I think. Primate ones, of course, work really well because primates just love climbing on anything they can get their hands on. They will just climb all over the place. These guys are no exception. They love climbing just as much as any other monkey. And they end up using the overpass really quite well, actually, which is surprising for me because it was a bit tricky to build a habitat. There's a lot of finagling with different pieces and stuff like that, and it was a bit there's a lot of like making sure that the animals could traverse these different areas and stuff like that, making sure I'm using the right materials to make sure they only climb on certain locations. For example, the wood pieces you see me using now are the Arctic wood pieces, and those are the only non-climbable wood pieces, I think, in the game. So you can put them in the habitat like this, and the monkeys will not be able to crawl on them or climb out using them. But other wood pieces I can use then within the habitat to create climbing frames, and that way I can kind of control which areas the monkeys can climb on, which they can't. Which I think is tremendously helpful, especially because this also ends up being a partially indoor habitat. Not completely. There'll be kind of a greenhouse vibe to it by the end. There'll be like glass ceilings and stuff, but there will be an open area on both sides so that rain can come in, water can come in. But the kind of structure of it is so the monkeys can climb out. And hopefully as we go on, you'll kind of see what I mean. It's a bit tricky to build, but I think it ends up looking pretty cool. There'll be a little staff area towards the back here, just so that the staff can access the monkeys, because they would want to access the monkeys. It was quite fun kind of using all these kind of hidden areas and stuff, because as I build these habitats I end up with a lot of like little empty spaces here and there, and just filling them out really with all these little details like staff areas and stuff, I think really ends up looking quite cool and makes the zoo feel a bit more natural, because in zoos you wouldn't necessarily have a lot of like unused space next to these habitats. There will be like, you know, staff areas and things like that, and yeah, I think it just works out quite well. And now we've basically created the skeleton of the habitat, so we're going to start on the rock work. Almost entirely faux rocks this time. I don't think I put in a single natural rock, because like I said, it's going to be an indoor habitat, and I thought let's make it feel a bit more like naturalistic as opposed to natural. And I've spoken about this a few times in my videos. In zoos, a lot of the time, instead of a natural habitat, you'll end up seeing naturalistic, which is the practice of making a natural environment using man-made techniques. Kind of like how you would if you're building like a terrarium for a reptile. You'd be building like rocks out of plaster and stuff like that, and then putting on real plants. So, you know, it's kind of a blending between these artificial and natural materials, but with the goal of creating something that looks quite natural. But of course in zoos you can't make something look completely natural, like it's unless you like drag in giant boulders and stuff. So using these faux rocks I think makes it look quite good. So I'm very happy with that. And now while we're doing this, because this is where we're actually going to start building the walkway, and while we build the walkway, because it's a pretty interesting process, I'll talk about the monkeys as well. And just about how interesting they are as creatures, because I think watching the walkway being built kind of speaks for itself. But yeah, these guys are incredibly interesting. Of course called the Proboscis monkeys because they have those gigantic bulbous noses. Only the males have them. The females and the young, they have more of like a smaller kind of pointy version of that nose. They got this beautiful reddish brown, orangey tan kind of skin color, but then with their arms and extremities and the tail kind of all being a much more grey, kind of speckly white kind of color. Really gorgeous animals, some of the most beautiful animals, honestly. And I personally think they're just some of my favorite primates. They're gorgeous. I love seeing them in the wild. And there's a place, if you're ever going down to Malaysian Borneo, you know, when we can actually travel again, I would recommend there's this place in Sandakan. It's called Labuk Bay, and it's just beautiful. It's an area just full of these proboscis monkeys. They're just all over the place, walking around, enjoying life, just having a great time. Honestly, they just it was really quite a great experience. I haven't been down there since I was like 15, maybe. That was 14, which would have been 10 years ago now, maybe. Yeah, so it's been a while since I've seen them, but truly beautiful animals. I've seen them in zoos a few times. Singapore Zoo has a cool, quite wet habitat for them with water at the bottom with fish in it, so they can display fish as well as the monkeys themselves, which I think is pretty cool. And on the screen, by the way, you will have seen me just finish that walkway. It may look kind of small, and I was worried it'd be too small at first, but the monkeys can traverse it pretty fine, so you'll see that in the cinematics, and I was very pleased with that. Back to talking about the monkeys briefly, because I keep wanting to talk about them. They can swim really well, which is really interesting. They're really quite fascinating. They can swim up to 20 meters underwater, which is incredibly bizarre, but like, especially for a primate, because primates are not known to be good swimmers, and these guys are probably the most aquatic of them. Like, I think if you look at the animal kingdom in general, most animals can swim pretty well, with the exception of primates, especially humans. Like, there's a lot of animals which we've seen swimming really well, which you wouldn't think could swim. Like, I believe I mentioned this in a previous video, even camels, which probably have never seen a body of water large enough for them to swim in, can swim really well, which is so strange. But yeah, they're super interesting with how aquatic they are, but I decided not to include any bodies of water in this habitat, primarily because even though they can swim really well, it's not necessarily something they choose to do often. Because in their natural habitat, the water isn't necessarily a safe place to be. So when I've seen them in the wild in the Kinabatangan River, that river actually is full of things like saltwater crocodiles, Asian water monitors, you know, just like things that would generally consider proboscis monkeys prey. So, you know, they would try to avoid essentially swimming as much as they can. So they'll try to use the trees. And like I said, they can jump incredibly far, which is really, really cool. Other predators of them include things like the clouded leopard, which we have just further back up in the park. Some large raptors, like some eagle species. And even things like big snakes. So in this area of the world, there's things like the reticulated pythons and other large snakes like that, which will very easily consider some of these monkeys prey. So not the easiest life for these guys, but truly beautiful animals. And they live in really large troops as well. So in this habitat, I do include quite a few of them. So I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about them. Like I said, these guys are some of my favorite primates, really incredible animals, and I love just talking about them. And I hope maybe you've learned a new fact or two about them. That's kind of my goal, hopefully, with each of these videos, is to kind of maybe teach you a new fact or two, or maybe just kind of bring up an appreciation of these animals, because all of them truly are just incredible creatures. But yeah, back to what we're doing on screen. So now you start seeing me work on the glass roof. So I wanted a glass roof for this area because these guys are tropical animals, of course, and would benefit from a more climate controlled habitat. So this kind of creates a bit of like a greenhouse kind of vibe, but it's not a walkthrough habitat. So the guests can't directly actually access any of the monkeys at all at any point. So the walkthrough area will be completely kind of separate, even if it looks like the whole thing is kind of covered. It was very tricky making the roof, like the top part of the roof, because you can see there's so many different angles here, and the pieces are, of course, all like square and a couple of different shapes. So it was very, very tricky to balance all of that and put it all together so that it would work effectively. You can see me try a few different things. In the end, I end up going for a more open plan version of this roof. So you do have that open area in the middle. And I use some like steel bars and stuff to kind of line it out and make it look quite nice. But you'll see in the next few minutes, right before we finish up actually, there's going to be a lot of experimentation. And then by the end, I kind of get most of it in place. I think here actually, no, it was here basically. Before I got everything in place, kind of gave up and just decided to go and do the foliage for now. And the foliage is kind of sticking to what we've done for a lot of these Southeast Asian animals. A lot more temperate foliage, a lot of bamboo, using the bramble plants to kind of line out edges, some trees interwoven with the climbing frames and stuff, which they all really enjoy using. I love watching them in the game, by the way. The development team did such a good job on these animals. The Proboscis monkey specifically, I think, looks so good. Really one of the highlights of the pack for me, which I didn't think it would necessarily be, because all the animals in the pack have been really high quality. With, of course, some of the really ones that stand out above the others being the sun bear, the clouded leopard. But I think the Proboscis monkey kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people, but it's easily become one of my favorites. And that's really hard to do in a pack where almost all the animals are one of my favorites, which is very difficult. I am kind of like tempted almost to do another like ranking of my favorite Planet Zoo animals, because that will have changed so much since the game first came out. Because at the start, it was things like the black bear, the Formosan black bear, the red panda and stuff like that. Or, some of them would still definitely be up there. Like I think the red panda is still a top 10 animal for me. But then there's so many which have come out since, which are just incredible. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure the dwarf caiman is easily in my top 10 now. Like, almost like half of the animals in this pack alone, the Southeast Asian one, will be up there. So yeah, maybe I'll make a video about that and just talking about how some of these animals are just astoundingly well designed and look incredible and just play really well in the game as well. So yeah, maybe that'll be a fun thing to do. Anyways, we're coming up towards the end of the video. As you can see, just finally cleaning up some of the walkway stuff here, using different pieces to kind of edge out the glass pieces and stuff like that, just to, neaten things up a bit. But we're pretty much coming to the end now. So I just want to say quickly, as always, I do hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've learned something about these monkeys. Oh wait, we aren't at the end of the video. I forgot. This is what I meant earlier when we did the bamboo pieces. Sorry for outroing a little bit prematurely there, because that was I completely forgot about these. But yeah, we do the bamboo pieces to kind of provide some, well, it couldn't all be glass. Essentially, I didn't want it to all be glass, and some coverage would be quite nice. And the bamboo looks really good here, I think. These particular bamboo panels, I wasn't a big fan of when they first came out because it's a flat texture. It's not like bumpy. Whereas like if you look at the log wall, it's kind of slightly bumpy, which looks quite good. But in situations like this, that bamboo looks really, really good. So I'm very happy to use it. And now we're actually coming up to the end of the video. So once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've learned something about the Proboscis monkeys. I hope you've enjoyed the video as a whole. And like, I just want to say thank you as always for the support. We are climbing very slowly, very like surely towards 2,000 subscribers, which is very cool. My kind of goal when I started the channel, so to speak, was always like to get 1,000 subscribers and I'd be happy, which I am. I absolutely am. It's crazy to think that it's still like growing, and like I'm very happy about that because at the end of the day, this has just been a hobby of mine, sharing my love of these games, sharing my love of these animals with people, and it just makes me so happy to know that other people are enjoying it as well. So yeah, big thank you to all of you. Now with that being said, like the video if you did like it, of course. Do comment down below. Let me know what you thought of today's video. Let me know if you have any further requests. We're pretty much finished with all the animals I wanted to cover for this pack. The Malayan tapir I might cover in a future video, but not super keen on making a habitat for it right now. So let me know, what do you think we should do next? Should I go back to, further back up the map and do the Formosan black bear habitat? Should I go further down and start working on things like the wolves and the other bears? Bison maybe, pronghorns? We got a lot of options, so let me know what you want to see down below in the comments. With that all being said, do subscribe for more Planet Zoo content. As always, like I said, every Wednesday 5 PM UK time. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!